It seems that the US cashed on the best of immigrants when it needed them the most, but now suddenly the very citizens who ran the American economy, their future versions, have turned enemy number one. Donald Trump was very happy to pose for the photograph with them: one Indian, two Chinese, one Taiwanese, and one Russian. But damn those immigrants, right?
Too many young people think that the country owes them a living. We've got too many people who graduate college with a useless degree and go to work in Starbucks, frankly, in this country. Why on earth would you go to work at Starbucks making coffee for $40,000 a year and, frankly, get treated like crap by the management? So that's an American problem. We need to solve it. You're right if you say, why is Donald Trump focusing so much on immigrants and not enough on U.S. education?
What's your take on H1B visa fee hike, which has been initiated by the Trump administration, which many also consider to be a human tariff?
In my view, the H1B system was being abused by some of our larger technology companies. And, America has been its borders have been too open to goods and people for too long, and we need some control. And having worked at tech companies, that where chief technology officers, where some of the greatest brains came from overseas, we need those folks here. But we don't need low-level junior technology employees who are mainly being employed to cut the labor costs of the large tech companies.
Sure. Now, the reason I'm asking you, Jeff, and trust me, you still look younger, although you mentioned that you are old. You're not at all old. You look younger to me. The reason I'm asking you this question is with the context that 70% of H1B visa holders were Indians, followed by the Chinese, of course. Now, post 50% tariffs on India, where the country has been singled out, do you think this is an extension of the tariffs, which do not seem to work the way President Trump wanted, at least from India?
I wouldn't see it as an anti-Indian policy. I would see the H1B policy as something designed to address the fact that too many people in the U.S. technology industry found themselves getting laid off and could not get another job, and something needs to be done for those people. I worked at a company in the Valley, incidentally, founded by a brilliant man of Indian origin, although he grew up here in the United States in Maryland. But he was a brilliant guy. In this company, we used H1B visas, and it was very clear that in many of those cases, we were using people in order to cut the company's labor costs. And a company needs to mind its labor costs. But at the same time, when you have somebody fixing your computer, that's the sort of thing. There are plenty of Americans who can do that job, and we need to worry about job opportunity for Americans. I also think we need good relations with India. I'm an admirer of Narendra Modi, by the way, and I think Narendra Modi's policies have influenced the Trump administration.
Sure. Now, Jeff, I would just like to get down to some layers of this argument. I understand your argument about tariffs, which deals with products and services, and I have read pretty much about it online. But I'm sure you would agree that human resources is not made in factories. It's nurtured over years, evolved
Right.
over years. Now, if I understand rightly, you said that 100,000 cap would make it impossible for abuse of this H1B visa law. But when we understand the larger of the companies, from Amazon to Meta to Google, Apple, Walmart, they are amongst the biggest users. But
Yes.
with this cap on H1B visas, the bigger companies can afford, but the startups can't. So don't you see the eventual burden of this H1B visa policy, which is $100,000, is disabling American startups to
No,
hire new Indian
I
talent?
know there are startup CEOs who are claiming that, but frankly, startup CEOs will claim anything to the newspapers that will help them save a nickel. The reality in the Valley is that if you've got a good idea, you can raise 20, 30, $40 million. And if you need technology executives to help you design your product, you would pay. I mean, we see it. We're paying $500,000 a year for these technology executives. And if it's somebody in India, and there are lots of brilliant software guys and hardware guys in India, $100,000 is not going to stop you. You're going to spend that fee on your engineering department. What we're saying to these companies is you can't spend it on people and I've seen it in the Valley, you can't spend it on young, single Indian, mostly men, who are willing to rent an apartment, sleep 5 people to a room, and get paid, back when I was there 10 years ago, $40,000 a year, because an American doing that similar job would ask for $80,000. So it's at the bottom end, and startups are not going to be hobbled by this. Believe me, what makes a startup successful is two things: a unique technology and good management at the top. And frankly, in my experience, we have loads of startups with great technology. We have a shortage of good managers and good CEOs in this country. We don't have a we don't really have a cost problem, because the venture capitalists are willing to pour money into almost anything, because in today's AI climate, they see, look, if I can do an AI startup, doesn't matter if I invest 100 million in it, I'm going to sell it for $1 billion to Google or to Nvidia in 3 years, and I'll do fine. So yeah, I'll pay a lot of money to bring over the best and the brightest engineers from places like India and Singapore and Malaysia. And at my last company, we had a brilliant guy from Morocco. I mean, we had people from all over the world. Okay, I'll stop there and leave you. Ask me another question.
No, the reason I'm asking you, Jeff, is let me switch the argument, okay? Let's take example of International Physics Olympiad, which US won the gold in. The team comprised, I mean, Donald Trump was very happy to pose for the photograph with them: one Indian, two Chinese, one Taiwanese, and one Russian. But damn those immigrants, right? Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, damn that immigrant. Sundar Pichai, Alphabet CEO. Elon Musk, SpaceX and Tesla, who by the way also funded Mr. Trump's presidential campaign. Eric Yuan, another immigrant. All of them have been H1B visa holders. Zoom founder. Eric Yuan was the Zoom founder. Meta just poached two very brilliant AI engineers. They're amongst the highest paid AI professionals in the world. Both of them are Chinese. I mean, is US suddenly saying damn to these immigrants? It seems that the US cashed on the best of immigrants when it needed them the most, but now suddenly the very citizens who ran the American economy, their future versions, have turned enemy number one.
I think you're overgeneralizing, and I think you have to avoid that when we talk about controversial, emotional subjects like immigrants and immigration. Now, I don't work for the Trump administration. I'm not going to speak for them, but my own view: immigrants are essential in America. As you say, there are people like Elon Musk. Satya Nadella has done a fantastic job running Microsoft, and he's an Indian immigrant, and I think he was even an H1B, perhaps. So these are
All of the
brilliant.
names I mentioned have been H1B visa holders.
Okay, now these are great people. Now, if you're at a company, whether it's a startup or a large company, would you pay an additional 100,000 fee to bring those sort of people over? You absolutely would. But on the other hand, we have a problem in the U.S. with a lot of people in tech at the lower level getting made unemployed these days, and the government's job is to try to make that better. And now the issue you're really raising here, when you talk about how all these folks are Indian and Chinese and Taiwanese, is we do not do enough in this country to encourage young people to study STEM subjects. I was involved in some of those campaigns when I lived in the Valley. We need more people to study STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. And we need to do more for young people. I mean, I've long said, if you study those subjects in American college, you should get a free ride. We should pay for your living expenses and everything. But if you decide to, study something like sociology or gender studies, you should be paying $100,000 a year. And frankly, the president and members of Congress should be doing more, speaking out more, and saying this country needs more STEM graduates. We need to take in, I'm sorry, fewer people from other countries, because we need to fill those classrooms with American kids. And this is a real problem, and it's a problem of a country that enjoyed 100 years of huge prosperity. I mean, up until 1970, this country's economy was functioning fantastically. And, I lived through this. My dad's standard of living rose constantly, and actually mine rose as well. And I saw the opportunities in technology, and too many young people think that the country owes them a living. We've got too many people who graduate college with a useless degree and go to work in Starbucks, frankly, in this country. And so your criticisms ought to be directed at the administration, and you ought to say, do more to get Americans educated in these STEM subjects. I mean, you can go to work at Google and get paid $100,000 a year right out of college. Why on earth would you go to work at Starbucks making coffee for $40,000 a year and, frankly, get treated like crap by the management because the management at Google treat people with respect? So that's an American problem. We need to solve it. You're right if you say, why is Donald Trump focusing so much on immigrants and not enough on U.S. education? Now, we could talk about U.S. education. Part of the problem is the federal government does not control it. It's controlled by the local governments. And, we've got problems in this country, no question.
Does US have enough talent in manufacturing and technology? I'll show you some numbers. You spoke about computer jobs. More than 80% of the so-called computer jobs went to Indians. Nearly 6% of the US physician workforce is Indians. When we talk about surveys, Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute projects that almost 2.1 million manufacturing jobs in the US could be unfilled by 2030 due to lack of skilled labor. Now, this gap is not merely a numbers issue. It's about evolving nature of manufacturing roles. CNC machining, robotics, automation, AI. My question is, does US have only 9% of the US population is qualified in mathematics? If I understand, they are proficient in mathematics numbers. Half of the STEM graduates in America are international students. My question is, does US have the manpower to fill these vacancies?
Obviously, right now, we don't have the qualified manpower to fill these vacancies, and that's why there are so many foreign students. And the foreign students will continue to be here. And as you say, what we need to do is overhaul our educational system. And it's not about raw ability. Every nation has an IQ. Their average IQ of the population is roughly 100. Americans aren't any smarter than Indians, and Taiwanese aren't any smarter than Americans. It's a question of culture and incentives and education. And what we need to do in this country is get back to a situation where people have incentives to work, to study hard in school, and to go into the subjects where we need graduates and we need professionals. And as you say, that's both manufacturing and technology and other areas as well. So this is an American problem. We need American solutions, and we're not taking action against Indians. We don't dislike Indians. As I said, I've worked alongside many Indians in the tech industry and Chinese people and Taiwanese people. And as I said, people from the Middle East, all over. We need those people in our tech companies, and they'll be there. I mean, we're taking a specific action on one area. As you say, we've got lots of problems with training people. We've got lots of problems with getting people into manufacturing. We need to boost the incentives there as well.